Okay, so welcome back. I'm happy to see you, and we're still good. We're still working our way through the 8 common myths, and we're hopeful to get through 3 and 4 today. So colleges rarely give merit scholarships to 3.0 students.
Yeah, well, I think that is a good myth, in the sense that every student brings a different profile and a different set of criterias to a college. And depending upon the college, they're going to try to help recruit students. So a student with a 3.5 GPA applying to a school with the average GPA of 4.0, no, they may not necessarily achieve a scholarship, a merit scholarship, because the money that the school has set aside is for the caliber of students. And I say that word, but I don't mean that to be negative, but the caliber of students that are above me as a 3.5 student. But if I find a 3.5 school that's looking for students and they're out there in large volume, they're going to reward that student. As an example, I have a student who has been working hard, struggling to bring her 2.8 GPA up. We found a series of schools that she would do well at, and one particular school offered her a $28,000 scholarship a year. So yes, that school is looking for students. That school has a great opportunity of education and campus life and athletics for this student to go. And lo and behold, it's a match. So we really need to do things that are designed to search for schools, as we've talked about before, search for schools that match our true identity, not necessarily what we're reading in the papers on the social media side of the world. So it's out there.
Yeah, so what you're talking about is something that we've discussed. It's probably going to be its own episode at some point. Is identity versus elite.
Yeah, that's good, Christine, because we're searching for the right words to be the to crack the code. And we talked earlier about that, about the fact that there's elite, there's highly selective, there's moderate, there's open enrollment. And as you sort of go down the list, people's attitudes and behaviors change. And we can't allow that to happen, because a school that is an outstanding institution that doesn't have a big brand, that may not necessarily be known to the vast population, may allow a student to enroll, provide them some financial resources, and that student gets done in 4 years and out into the workforce, and 10 or 20 years later, they're making XYZ thousands of dollars, while the student who goes to the prestige and elite institution, unfortunately, it might take them 6 years and they struggle to get a job when they get out. So let's not be so quick to pull the trigger based on what we hear and think.
Right. I actually sat down this morning and I Googled I looked through all of our Supreme Court justices and where they got their undergraduate degrees. And they're at the top of the food chain in their profession, and their schools are interesting. So that I would challenge anybody to do that same exercise, because it's really eye-opening.
Yeah, I do that a lot with students who are interested to go into broadcasting in front of the camera. And you will find a lot of individuals who are on major and local news stations came through a very interesting path to get to the point, where they are feeling now successful. So, yeah, I mean, the saying, you've heard it before, people are going to jump from one job to another over the course of 5 to 10 years. They'll stay in the same industry, but they'll come up the ladder, they'll go down the ladder, they'll go to another company. So it's important, which adds to the emotion and the stress and the anxiety of all of this that parents and students go through.
Right. Okay, so colleges do give merit scholarships to 3.0 students.
They certainly do. Let's find them.
Let's find them. Let's focus on identity instead of on elite.
Right. right. And I would add the word authentic, because authentic is what the student brings to the table, what their family brings to the table. And I don't think you can change your authentic identity. You can modify it. You can hope that social, environmental things don't affect it, but they do. But as a grandparent of three now, watching my 5-year-old develop, um, yeah, it's how her parents shape her and how she looks at things from the outside world. Um, it moves forward, you know. And I left her when we were down visiting a couple weeks ago. I left her with one thought in her ear: do your best and be kind to others. And, you know, so we got to work hard to find that authentic identity and put it to work for us.
Yeah, I'm actually reading a book right now that's called How to Raise an Adult. As you know, I have two adult children who I've raised. I thought maybe I knew how to do this, but I got it all wrong. I'm reading this book and I'm learning I got it all wrong. So it's a
How
really
could you get
interesting
it wrong?
book. Well, I like what you said about you know what the authenticity and what the student and the family brings to the table. And I think as a parent, um I think that's what feeds this elitism is as a parent, what we want to do, and these are not my words, I took this straight from the book. We want to put our children on our shoulders and let them reach for all that we have done and accomplished. And when really what we should be doing is letting them be their authentic selves and find their own way.
Yeah, and we have to help them along the way. I'm not a professor of the knowledge of, you know, let them go and let them experience. And you know, I'm a believer in letting the rope out, pull it back in with some coaching and guidance, letting the rope out. And we as parents, I mean, I'm a parent of four. They're older than your children. And I'm still learning how to help them and be a parent of adult children, you know, and without being overly protective. And, you know, so it's a fun phenomena. And I don't profess to be an expert. So I think however a family is structured, whether it's a single mom or a single dad or divorced parents or two income parents, it's all about putting the time and effort in to learn ourselves to be better and help our kids to be better.
Yes, and taking that authenticity and that identity into consideration when looking for colleges, because like you said, I think it was in myth 1 or 2, you know, we don't do this when we go buy a car or go buy a couch for the living room. You know, we don't look for in a college what's the best fit for our family, for our identity, for who we are as a family, who this person is as a student.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I think is I hope that the administrators and the leadership of any college are hiring and monitoring their faculty so that they're teaching at the best level they can be. So if that's the case across the board, well, let's just generalize. If that's the case across the board, whether it's a 60,000 enrollment or a 2,000 enrollment, then what's the secret sauce? The secret sauce is how is that student going to be successful in their personal life, their social life, their emotional life while they're in that school, so they feel comfortable like they would being in their parents, you know, or their home in the living room, so that they can combine those two or those three or four factors so that these emotional and stressful and mental health issues aren't popping up the way they are. And the pressure that students feel to succeed. Yes, we want them to be successful. We want the best for our kids. I still do, and now for my grandchildren. But we want them to succeed at their pace and at their level, and the right environment's going to give that. So if everybody is sort of equal on the academic side, then I like to wear Ralph Lauren polo shirts. I may not fit into a flannel shirt at school, and vice versa. You know, and I may not have the financial wealth to be able to fit in. So, you know, weekends are times for relaxation. If there's a lot of investment in those weekend activities and I can't do that, then I feel like I'm a little bit on the outside looking in, and that starts affecting me emotionally, mentally, academically. It's all part of a vicious cycle. And if we can find that right environment, I think that's key.
Yeah, perfect.
Sound like a preacher, sorry.
No, no, it's a very well said. I mean, it's very true. And I don't know if students, if they're not listening to someone tell them that, I don't know that they've considered that. It's a really good point.
And you know as well as I do, it's not, unlike buying a car, which probably takes about a 30 to 45-day cycle, it's not a quick process because you've got to evaluate things. And we want it to be a good, seamless process, but it does take time. So as I talk to sophomore parents, I'm encouraging sophomore parents to use time to go out and visit schools. Don't take tours. Just drive by and say, hey, Stevie, there's a school. Look at that. Let's drive on the campus and envision it. And don't do a lot of lecturing. Don't do a lot of coaching. Just let them envision it. Go to another school. It might be smaller or bigger. Because one of the things I run into when I'm working with students is they have no real concept of size, not only the buildings, but the amount of students and what that might mean. And we try to compare it to their high school environment or the city and town they live in. And that's very difficult for them while they're trying to do their essay with you or their applications and narrow their list and boom, boom, boom. So things that we can do ahead of time, softly, to get them to start thinking about things is important. And as you know, when I talk to families, if you're not ready for school, if you're not looking for school after your high school, after your senior year, that's equally as important to validate.
Exactly.